River City Podcast Federation.
Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sara Jones. This is another one of our minisodes where I get to talk to you about your ghost stories. For this minisode, I spoke to a man named Mario. Mario shared some fascinating and creepy stories from Texas. Here's the call. I hope you love it.
Hello?
Hi, is this Mario?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Mario. This is Sara Jones from Laughing in the Dark. How are you?
Yeah, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Do you want to tell listeners something about yourself, just to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Mario Garcia, or Mario Garcia, and
Okay.
I'm about 62. I'll be 62 years old here soon.
How
And,
soon?
In February, so I'm about 61 and a half.
Okay.
But anyways, I was born in Waco, Texas, back in 1957. And some of these stories that I'm about to tell you are things that were told by my family, my mom, back when we were kids growing up. You know, they kind of stayed with us, and we kind of used them ourselves over the years, you know.
Yeah.
You probably heard the story of La Llorona.
I don't think
Have
so.
you heard that one?
No.
Yeah, the crying lady.
No.
Yeah, well, La Llorona was, when we were growing up in Texas, we lived on a farm, and I must have been about 10 years old. Well, there was 12 of us kids in the family, okay?
Okay.
And we lived out in the farm, and behind our house, I want to say about maybe 100 yards back of the house, there was a little river that ran all along both sides of our house. It went down one side, it went out down the other side. Well, as a young kid, my brothers and I up to go and play by the river, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we'd go out by the river and play, and I mean, there was nothing to do back in the day. In the early 60s, we didn't have all the games that the kids have now, so we spent a lot of outdoors. And I mean, it was beautiful growing up because you were actually playing ball or doing something, you know.
Yeah.
And we liked to swim in that little river. And sometimes in Texas, it's very hot. And but it would come close to dark time, and we're still out there, and my mom would say, "Get in the house, or the Llorona's going to get you," you know?
Yeah.
And so I remember we asked my mom, you know, who is the Llorona? What's that about? You know, and she would gather us around, and she told us her side of the story was that many years ago in Mexico, this lady had met this gentleman passing through, and she had fell in love with this man. Okay.
Okay.
And she eventually ended up having 2 children with this man, but this man wasn't much of a father. He was always gone. You know, he was just passing through, and he'd come back, but he'd stop and see the children because he loved the children, his kids. And he had 2 kids, and he loved his kids. But she wanted to get married, and he didn't want to marry her. He'd say, "No, I just come to see the kids." Well, on one of them trips, he came back one day, and he had a lady with him. He said, "This is my wife."
Oh no.
And she went into a jealous rage. And he says, but I tell you, I don't come to see you. I come to see my kids. So in a jealous rage, she drowned the kids.
Oh, no.
And she drowned her 2 kids, and she drowned herself. After she realized what she'd done, she jumped in the water too, but just out of anger to that man that she had fallen in love with. Okay, and so, anyways, they said after that people would hear her in the middle of the night. They'd hear her crying. They'd hear a woman crying. Mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos? My children, where are my children? So she'd go up and down the rivers looking for her children that she had drowned, and but my mom would tell us, now she doesn't care at this point. She would just take any kid any child that she could get, and call it her own. So you don't want to hang around by the rivers at night because she'll get you, Well, us as young children, that puts the fear of God in you. You'd come.
Oh, so yeah.
Growing up, come getting dark, we'd be looking at it start to get dark, and somebody would say, "Listen, we got to get out of here because the Llorona's going to get us. The Llorona will get us." So that would be her way of getting us back in the house, And a lot of times in Texas, looking back now, it's funny, because we would say, my older brothers and sisters would say, "Oh, Mom's just messing with us. There's no such thing." Well, as a young child, you'd hear the coyotes in Texas. There's a lot of coyotes, and we hear coyotes howling, and they'd say, my brothers and sisters say, "Listen to the coyotes." And like I say, it was a farm. It was real quiet where we lived at. And Mom would say, "That's no coyote. That's the Llorona. He's crying for her children." You would put the blanket over your head and say, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
You'd say, this is for real, And, as we grew older, we'd hear the legend told, and we'd hear the legend told, but I remember using it on my kids. Get inside, because the Llorona will get you, And, but, that's just one of the myths, one of the stories in the Mexican folklore. It's been around for many, many, many years, I guess.
Wow.
Now we ask, we used to ask her as we were young adults, and my mom would tell us, "Your grandma told us that story, and her mother, so that story's been around a long time.
Yeah.
And, but in Mexico, and my wife's name is Rosa, and her family, wife's family was from Mexico, from Sabinas, Coahuila, Mexico. And my father-in-law, he had a couple of good stories for us that, he passed away here a few years ago, but he was like 89 years old when he passed. And, but back in the day, he would tell us, when he was growing up, as a young man, he was quite the partier, and he told us a story. I recall a story he told us once about he lived in the border of Laredo, Texas, and Mexico there, in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. And but he would take the bus across to go to Texas and go to the bars in Texas, and at night he'd take the bus going back to Mexico, into Mexico. And he told us a story one night that he had gone into Mexico, and his mom would tell him, don't do that. He didn't like him going out by himself. He said, "You're going to get in trouble, or something could happen to you." You know. He said, "Mom, I'm fine. I don't. I'm a big boy. I'm 20 years old. I can do what I want." So,
yeah.
And so he said one night he went up and he partied till wee hours of the morning. He said, and at night he got the last bus coming in, and the bus dropped him off short of his stop. He said, "This is as far as I go." and I'm done for the night. The driver told him, this is where you have to get off. And it was a different route to his house that he'd normally take. So he ended up taking some back streets home, okay?
Yeah.
And
nothing good ever comes of that.
So he says he's walking home, and he hears this music, and he looks over across the street, and there's a man and three young guys up on this porch. And they waved him over, so he walks over there and they asked him if he wanted a beer. He said, well, sure. You know, he still had some partying left in him. So he said that he partied for these guys. They had to go and it was just this three young men about his age and this old man. And he said that he remembers waking up in the morning in a couch, but there wasn't much furniture in the house, and there was no of the men anywhere. Of the young men or the old man that was with him, with the kids. He goes, the old man that was drinking with us, he wasn't there. The kids, the boys weren't there. So he thought, man, it's been a hell of a party. So
right.
He just went about his way, and he went home. The following week, he did it again. But this time he came home earlier, you know, so he wouldn't miss that last bus. Mm-hmm. But he asked the driver to let him off there at the same place where he had dropped him off the week before, because he thought, well, I'll go finish out the night with these guys that I partied with last week. They seem like pretty nice guys. So he tells us he walked over there, and there was nobody there. And there was somebody across next door to the house. There was a guy working on his yard. He goes, it was just before dark, and he said, "Can I help you?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was here a week ago. And I was here partying with an older gentleman and three young men." He goes, "Oh, no." He goes, we've heard that before. He goes, "But about 2 or 3 years ago, a man was drinking with his sons, and they got into a fight, and he shot all of his sons, and then he shot himself."
Oh, no.
Nobody lives there.
Oh, no.
My father-in-law says he just felt like the back of his hair stand up the back of his head, you know, like,
yeah.
What are you talking about? He goes, "No, other people claim that they've heard music and they've seen them out there because that's what they used to do all the time."
Yeah.
And in one of the drunken rages, the father, it says the old man, he goes, and he ended up shooting his kids, and then he shot himself. And my father-in-law would tell me, I never went down that road again, because you know, I said I partied. He would tell us I partied with ghosts.
Yeah.
You know? And but he was very serious when he told us this story. He told us that it really happened. You know, we had no reason to doubt him because you know, I knew my father-in-law for many years. We've been married 43 years, my wife and I, and he was always a pretty honest guy when he told us things, you know.
Yeah.
And he said that, you know, this really happened to me, you know, but it was way back in the day, you know, back in the early 1900s, you know. And,
whoa.
And then another time he said that he had taken a train home. He goes, and there was a girl sitting like 3 or 4 seats down from him, and it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And he said he got off the train, and he had asked the girl, "What's your name? You know, ¿Cómo te llamas?" He was asking her in Spanish, and the girl would not reply to him. He would ask her again, "¿Cómo te llamas?" And the girl wouldn't turn around. She wouldn't acknowledge him. He goes, and then he goes, "But I know she had beautiful long hair." He goes, "She was beautiful." He goes, so the train comes to a stop. He goes, and she gets off, and I decided I'd get off and follow her. And I wanted to talk to her. He goes, because she was a beautiful girl.
Uh-oh.
So as I started following her, but she was probably 10 feet in front of me, and she was walking real fast. And I said, "I just want to talk to you. I want to know your name." And so all of a sudden she turned away. She turned and looked at him. She says, there were. He goes, "Did she faded away?" He says,
Whoa.
He says, but that was another story that he told us.
That was your father-in-law as well?
That was my father-in-law as well, yes. Yes, that was my father-in-law as well.
Wow.
But them are just, I told my son Vincent and my daughter, Alejandra and Estela, over the years, they say, "Wow, Dad, that's some weird stuff." I go, "Yeah, but that's what they claimed, That's what he claimed, that, I had no reason to doubt him.
Yeah.
Because even at his old age, he was quite the party guy. And one story that I told my kids that my wife and myself, back in, I want to say it must have been like in 82, 83, my wife, I'm sorry, it must have been about 78 or 79.
Yeah.
My wife and I made a trip to Texas from Michigan, and it was in July, this time of year. Well, if it's hot here, it's very hot in Texas, correct?
Yeah.
And so we're going down south, and just my wife and I. My wife it must have been like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and my wife says, "I'm tired," and I could see she was restless and trying to sleep in the car. I said, "Well, why don't you go sleep in the back? You got the whole back seat to yourself." So she jumped in the back seat, and she's sleeping, and I'm wide awake. I'm driving, I've been a truck driver all my life, but even then I was driving, so I'm pretty good about driving. I was wide awake at 2 in the morning. I was excited about we're going to reach our destination by morning. When you're on a trip, you're excited when you're going down to get to where you got to go.
Bro, and, definitely.
And we're going down the road, and this is a big highway, but there's no one around. There's no cars around, nowhere. And there's open fields on both sides of us of the highway. We're going down the road, and I see something down the road, and I put my brights on, and I see a lady walking not on the shoulder of the road. She's walking in the middle of the road, and but she's wearing a long white fur coat, and this is July.
Yeah.
And she's wearing a long white fur coat. And I'm yelling, "Rosa, Rosa, wake up." I said, "Look at this." I slowed down, I toot the horn, and the lady never acknowledged us. She just kept walking in the middle of the road, and I slowly went around her, and I looked in the mirror, and I couldn't see anybody. And,
whoa.
But it was, and I tell my wife, "There's a lady back there." And she says, "Well, go back." I turned around, we went back, and there was nothing there. There was nothing there on the road, and there was nowhere she could have gone. There was, like I say, there was open fields, there was no woods she could have gone into. It was an open field, open road. And that stayed with me forever. I mean, I tell the kids that story. I said, I believe what I saw was a ghost or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess there was no explanation to what I saw.
Yeah.
But there were just some things that I've told my kids over the years, and Vincent told me you were going to call, and he said, "You got to share these, Dad, with you when I." But yeah, that's about all I got that I can remember right now for you.
Wow, well, that's awesome. So, did all of those stories happen in? I mean, I know that your father-in-law, his stories happened in Mexico. But did yours all happen in Texas?
In Texas, when I was growing up, that was the Llorona story the myth about the Llorona, the crying lady.
Well, and the woman in the road.
And the woman in the road, that happened in Arkansas, actually.
Oh, in
that
Arkansas.
Yeah, we were on our way to Texas when that happened.
I see. Okay. Yeah. And do you live so are you living in Michigan now, or?
Yeah, we live in Michigan now. We moved to Michigan in 1967. We moved to Michigan.
Oh, okay.
And so I have to say I was just a kid when we lived in Texas, but But we've always gone back though to visit, and I've been back to Mexico many times to visit. And the times we've gone back to Mexico, my wife's aunts and her sisters live down there in Mexico, and we would ask them about these stories that Grandpa Tony had told us, and they said, yeah, that stories that he carried with him that he told us. He always told the girls the same stories.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just little stories that you wonder, wow, what was behind that, But
well, I'm at least glad that it sounds like that dad and his kids are still partying.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be worse. You could have a worse experience with a ghost, I imagine.
Yeah, and that's what my father-in-law said that the neighbor told him, this has happened to other people before. They said that they've partied with these guys. And he goes, but yet I live next door and I never heard it, but they've come the next day and they said that they were invited into the house and they'd spend night there. He says, because after that happened, they could never sell that house.
Yeah.
The house was vacant for many years because, back in the day, people, really believed in that sort of thing, especially in Mexico.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that stuff that, they take that very serious, that's like an omen. You don't want to go in that house. You don't want to go near that house. Stay away from that house, But my father-in-law, he said that he was a victim to that when he talked to the gentleman next door, he said, no, other people have come and done the same thing and asked me about the people in that house. And when I tell them the story, they freak out. They go, it can't be because I was with him. I talked to him. I drank with him. He goes, well, show me some evidence. He goes, but when I woke up in the morning, there was no sign of anything. He was right. There was no sign of any bottles or cans, or he went in there and he slept on the couch. But in his mind, and how could he party with this guy? How could he know how many guys there was? And there was no women. He was just drinking with the guys and listening to music. But it never. How do you explain that? It never really happened.
And the fact that the neighbors were like, "Oh no, we've heard this before."
Yeah, and we've heard this before. The same story.
Yeah.
But if you go there, there's nobody there. And
wow.
He goes, "What music? There was no music last night because I live next door." And the people that, like you, say that there was music, loud music playing, but there wasn't. It was in your mind, and you were with them.
Wow. I like that, though. I mean, I like, obviously, I hear a lot of ghost stories from doing this show. And I haven't heard one like that yet, where you're just getting drunk and hanging out and having fun. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I guess it would be great, unless it happened to you,
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's scary later on when you realize, nobody was there. But
nobody was there, yeah.
Yeah.
But he remembered it very vivid. He goes, how could I remember something so vivid?
Yeah.
And wake up and he said, he says, well, I woke up, I looking around, nobody's there, no sign of nobody, no sign of nothing, just a couch in the living room. But he says, but there were chairs in the porch. He goes, and I wasn't in the house with him. We partied on the porch. He goes, but I just remember waking up on the couch.
That's so weird.
No, that's some pretty interesting stuff. Yeah. But that's all I have for you. But
well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed that.
I did. It was really great talking to you.
Okay. And, nice talking to you. Okay. Well, you have a good night.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your call, Mario. I love the idea of partying with ghosts. Do you have a great ghost story that you want to tell me about? We want to hear from you. Email us at litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. That's litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. Tell us your story. We might want to put you on the show. As always, thanks so much for listening.
River City Podcast Federation.